Thank you, Randall. I agree. You said, and thank you, Amy, for this great music today. We are honored and treated to have you doing music with us. So, our April theme is guided by spirit as we arise. So, I've been focusing on that word, the whole the whole thing that you can do with the word rise or arise or rising up. And arise has many meanings. It means to get up or stand up, like getting out of bed or the chair onto our feet, which most of us have done a time or two and definitely done today, something I need to do way more often. Or we actually can rise by raising our vibration and get into a more spiritual consciousness through that. And one of the ways to raise our there's many ways to raise our vibration. One of them is through singing, which we've been doing this morning, and praying, which we've also been doing this morning. But one of my favorite ways to raise our vibration is chanting. So I'd like to just help us get higher into the spirit by taking a moment to do some Om chanting together, and just see how that resonates see if the practice resonates with you. So please join me. Many of you are old hats at this. We'll do a few rounds of Om. So please join me. Om. 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 Thank you. I felt that. Did you feel that? Yeah. We should do more of that. And also, getting back to rising and arising metaphorically, it means people rising up, like the song we just had, standing together for peace and justice, which many of us have been doing. Many of you are participating in All Rise Alameda, and they're actually meeting here in our sanctuary nowadays, and we are supporting them. And I'm very proud of us that we're doing that. They're one example of the hopefully growing multitudes concerned about the state of our country and the world, and taking actions to make sure our voices are heard and our messages are registered. The word arise also means to move upward, to ascend, like Jesus did on Easter Sunday. And speaking of Easter, did you all get to hear Brother Lucian's talk last Sunday? Okay, good. If you missed it, this is Brother Lucian Baker, Reverend Eloise Oliver's grandson. You can catch it on our Facebook page. He talked about transforming our lives using the term remix and reminding us of what the Christ consciousness we all have inside of us. It's our holy nature, and how Jesus said that we have the capacity to do even greater things than he did. And he urged us not to shy away from stepping into that greatness, which is another form of arising, or as I call it, rising to the occasion. What do I mean by rising to the occasion? Something happens that calls forth a quality or a talent or a capacity within us that we may not always use. We may keep hidden or buried. And it might even be a bit of a stretch. We may not know that we have that capacity. But something happens and it calls it out of us. When we rise to the occasion, we step forward and do what needs to be done, often without even giving it a second thought. Here I am, take me. And sometimes if we think about it, we may not step forward. So this is almost instinctual on our part. And I've got a few examples of that. One of them happened right here at Easter. It was our first Easter after COVID, and I'm guessing that was 2022. Um, and we had, like we always like to do, dyed the eggs and hidden them in the garden. And we had a bunch of neighborhood kids show up and collect all the eggs. And we were winding down. And right about that time, a Asian man came with his little 3-year-old son Benji, and Benji was carrying his Easter basket. It was empty, and his father said, "Are we too late?" And so we were all looking at each other really fast, like, "Okay, what are we going to do?" And one of the kids who had a basket full of eggs, a little boy, who was standing in such a way that uh, that Benji and his father couldn't see him, took one of the eggs out of his basket and surreptitiously hid it in the garden behind a plant where it was peeking out a little bit. And he said, "Hey, Benji, look over there. There's an egg for you. See if you can find it." And Benji got big eyes and he went over and he found the egg and he picked it up and we said, "It's for you. You can put it in your basket." And he was ecstatic and he was grinning from ear to ear. And he put it in his basket and he was holding his basket up, so proud. And then the little girl took one of her eggs out of her basket. She went over there and she hid it, so it was just a little bit poking out. And she goes, "Benji, what's that over there?" And his eyes got big again and he went over there and he grabbed the egg and they said, "It's yours, Benji, put it in your basket." And this was so much fun. All the kids had to get in the game. And within a few minutes, Benji's basket was full. And these little kids, I don't know where they were on the lesson range of learning that it's better to give than to receive, but they learned it that day. They rose to that occasion. And we saw a few kids do that last Sunday as well. So it will be a continuing tradition for us. Another story happened last Sunday. As I was leaving, and I was one of the last persons to leave, right out front, there was a African American man sitting in a wheelchair with a bunch of books on his lap. So many books, they started sliding off of his lap onto the ground. So I went over to him and I picked up the books and put him back in, and we introduced ourselves. He said his name was Justin, and I explained that I was part of this church and he should come sometime. And he goes, "Tell me about this church." And I said, "Well, it's a metaphysical church." He goes, "Give it to me straight. Don't give me the black version. Give me the straight version." And I was like, what does that even mean? So I briefly explained that we don't believe in hell or the devil, and we believe in oneness, and a couple of things I said. And and and, and he was like, And I said, "You got to come sometime." And he goes, "Well, maybe I will." And I said, "Okay, it's been nice to meet you. I've got to go." And there was a lot of cars when I was getting ready to cross the street to go in my car. He wanted to help me to my car. So he jumped up out of his wheelchair
Oh my God.
and grabbed my arm and walked very shakily. So I was like hanging on to him
Oh God.
to get to my car. But he did rise to the occasion. And that's not the first time that happened to me. So I've got to tell you the story about Roger Miller. When I worked at Fairmont Hospital, there was a patient in the skilled nursing unit, and his name just so happened to be Roger Miller. And his favorite song just so happened to be King of the Road, but he didn't write the song. He was there because he was dying from a brain tumor. And he was going downhill. He got to the point where he could not walk safely by himself. So when he wanted to get up out of bed, they put him in a wheelchair. So he was in the wheelchair in the hall, just kind of sitting there, which happens a lot in skilled nursing facilities. And I came by, and I was talking to him because it was about to be my birthday. And he said to me, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I got all animated, and I was quoting Groucho Marx, and I said, "I want gaiety, I want laughter, I want a ha-cha-cha-cha." He stood up and put his arms out like this, like you would for a ballroom dance. And so I went with it, since I happen to know how to do that. And we started waltzing, and he was waltzing perfectly. And it was like wow, where did this come from? And after a few minutes of that, I got scared. I said, what's going to happen? So I waltzed him back to the wheelchair and eased him back down because I didn't know how long he was able to sustain that. But he was dancing
Wow.
perfectly. So I do believe that he rose to that occasion.
Oh, God.
So I believe that when the opportunity arises, no matter what our fears are and our backgrounds are, we have that capacity to rise to those occasions. And we've all heard stories about mothers who's able to lift one end of a car to get their child that's trapped underneath the car out, and feats of amazing strength and capacity that we wouldn't think that we normally could do, but we do. And what a gift. So think about that, because I would like to, if you have a story, I'd definitely like to hear it after the service in fellowship or whenever we can talk. Because I believe we are all capable of these kinds of miracles, not just the saints and the avatars. And maybe saints are just sinners who rose to the occasion that called them to grow in spirit. And this is an example of love in action and God in action. And that's what we believe in here at the Home of Truth. So, where do these ideas come from? Because they've been around a lot longer than quantum physics, although their science is definitely catching up with them. That's why some of the New Thought churches have the name science or scientist in them. So, in that vein, I want to take a brief look at our 4 principles, which I was on the board at the time when we adopted these, and very grateful that we were successful in a process that we came to alignment around them. So I just want to touch on those briefly. The first one is God, infinite intelligence, divine consciousness is supreme, universal, and everlasting. We can call this source, this essence, whatever name feels good to us. It answers to any name, and I believe is everywhere present. As in, as we like to say, there is no spot where God is not. And unlike mainstream Christianity, metaphysicians don't believe in the devil or hell or a supernatural force for evil. Yes, sadly, there are mean-spirited people in the world that we can strongly disagree with, and it may feel like they're out to destroy all that we hold near and dear long about now. But if God is universal, then that means we are all one, and that oneness includes them, not by character, but by definition. It's all God. God is not into judging. We're great at judging, but God is not. God just is. The second principle, we are each an individual expression of this one power, which manifests uniquely through each being. Again, this includes all of us. They are everyone, whether we particularly like them or think they are or not, are expressions of the divine, which is why we may want to pray to the better angels of their nature for them to wake up and show some compassion. But that work has to start in us. We can't come to that place where we can pray up for their compassion until we get to that compassion ourselves. You can't fight hate with more hate. It takes love to do that, which is a hard teaching. But love happens to be one of the highest vibrationary forces that there is, which is why love and peace and joy can outmatch fear and hate. And a lot of hate is based on fear. The third principle, the highest principle, is having a personal connection with the God of our understanding, which guides us in loving ourselves and others unconditionally, which we are all encouraged to do. We do not need a priest or a minister to be the intermediary for us. We each can have our own personal connection with God within for guidance and correct connection. And as Thich Nhat Hanh said, God is every breath. Number 4,
Our mental states are carried forward into manifestation and become our experience in daily living, including prayer and other spiritual practices. So, given this gift that we are co-creative with Spirit, it behooves us to monitor our mental states. If our mental state is going to take form, then what do you want to have take form? And preferably, let's align our consciousness with that so that we can be mindful and conscious as we're creating, because we're creating all the time. We can create with our prayers, our words, our thoughts, our emotions, and other practices. And as Reverend Mawata, who speaks here sometimes, says, your consciousness makes a difference. We are indeed that powerful. So, how did we get here? I'm told that people may or may not want to hear about what a bunch of Victorian men and women did or did not do back in the day, especially young people. And so now I know how Lin-Manuel Miranda felt when they told him that people didn't want to hear about an adulterous, politicking, dueling, often shady immigrant who came from squalor without so much as $1 to his name, who opportunistically rose to the level of president of the United States back in the 1770s. What's his name, man?
Hamilton.
Boring, right? So, with sincere apologies to Lin-Manuel, we begin. How does a watchmaker, son of a blacksmith, and fairly distraught, suffering from TB, find and develop a brand new system of spiritual thought? No formal education. The man was self-taught. Before medication was common in our nation, he kept his eyes open for a cure. A gallop on his horse changed the whole course of his pain, making him realize he was one of a kind who believed that the body can be changed by the mind. What's his name, man?
Hamilton.
Phineas Quimby.
Oh.
His name was Phineas Quimby. When he saw a hypnotist and was mesmerized, he felt better and was able to surmise the power of his thoughts. Not something he ever forgot, as that is what he taught, and one of his students was Mary Baker Eddy. Her pro-slavery Calvinist father detested Abe Lincoln, which angered and disgusted her, but got her to thinking. Plagued with fainting fits and ending up quite sick, a treatment from Phineas did the trick right quick. He taught her what he knew, and she found it appealing. She also studied Bible stories of Jesus' healing, wrote it up in her own book, and no, it wasn't stealing. She never stopped to give her mind a rest and went on to found the Church of Christ Scientist. In 1883, Emma Curtis Hopkins heard Mary speak, signed up for her college the very next week. Emma learned everything that she could from Mary, became a practitioner so fast it was scary. Teaching was her gift, new thought was her game. Ever since then, the world ain't been the same. Along came Ernie Holmes, Chucky Fillmore too, learning all they could from you know who. Got to tell the story of Myrtle Fillmore, Charles' wife. She suffered from TB and so concerned about her life, she set a chair in front of her to wrap her disease, and for 8 hours a day talking to it put her mind at ease. Reminded it of what Emma said, that sickness isn't real. That's what it took, but she was fully healed. Emma was known as the teacher of teachers. Practically speaking, she was a teacher of preachers. Like Mary before her, many came to adore her. She studied ideas captured in her books. 2 of her students, I think were very prudent, are thought founders, Annie and Harriet Ricks. Upstairs and in the foyer, you can see their pics. They studied with Emma, and thanks to their rich mama, went on to create their very own homes of truth, where folks worshiped in their living rooms back in the day, way ahead of Zoom. Before they left the planet, there were 40 such homes. We're the last ones standing, but fairly well known. And whether or not you agree with what these folks taught, that's our spiritual lineage, the family tree of new thought. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for indulging me. I had to get it out of my system. This week, I spent a week working on it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Really great.
We are going to wrap up with some
Wrap.
more prayer. Yeah, I didn't even
Wrap.
think of that. Okay. So, again, why don't you join me in taking some deep breaths? Let's breathe in and release with a sigh. Mother, Father, God, Great Spirit, that divine, creative, intelligent life force that lives and moves and animates each and every one of our beings, we know we live and move and are animated in you and by you and all around, are blessed with your blessings. We know that there is no spot where you are not, so there's no spot where we are not, even if we don't understand exactly how that all works. We are the benefits and the blessings of a universal life force that we are honored to partake of. This gift of life, let us honor it, let us treasure it, let us share it, and let us be cognizant of where it takes people that may need something that we have, people that may have a different experience, which doesn't mean they are not children of God. So let us be gracious and bless. Just bless. We don't even have to like or love what we're blessing, but blessing just means to bestow it with a sacred, conscious sacredness. And that's what we can be about today, just going about our day, being conscious of our sacredness. And if we do that, many beautiful things will flow out from that, things that we have no idea of right now, things that we may not even ever find out about. And that's another wonderful aspect of blessing. So if anything that I have said today resonates for you, or even if it doesn't, please join me in saying thank you, amen, ashe, and so it is.